Today I want to show you how super easy it is to make awesome homemade artisanal bread right in your own kitchen. We're going to debunk all that crap that's going around, and we're going to get right down to the simple nitty-gritty, and you're going to surprise yourself at how easy it is. So in this recipe, I'm going to use simply all-purpose flour, a little bit of yeast, water, and a little bit of sugar to activate the yeast. And then we're going to kick it up by adding feta and sun-dried tomatoes to our bread. It's super delicious, and believe me, again, I stress this, it is that easy. Now for this recipe here, I'm going to be using 325 mLs of water, or just tepid or lukewarm water, and 500 grams of all-purpose flour. The recipe is by weight. It's a European recipe, but online you can find a boatload of converters if you want to convert this into like cups and ounces. So to start us off, first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a heaping teaspoon of dry active yeast is going to go into my warm water there, so that'll do it there. As well as I'm also going to do about a teaspoon of sugar. So once you give this a quick stir, just set it aside for a bit and just let it kind of do its thing and start activating. So that's out of the way. Now, I'm using a mixer for this. Believe me, you can do it by hand as well. Very, very easy. Just a little bit more elbow grease in terms of mixing the dough. So I'm going to take my 500 grams of flour. I'm going to dump it into my mixing bowl here. Get that out of the way. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using some sun-dried tomatoes. So for this, I'm going to take out my sun-dried tomatoes and I'm going to chop them up a little finer. I don't want like huge pieces of tomato in my bread. So just get them out onto your work surface. And these are so awesome. I'm using like a little 200 gram jar of this. Instead of using olive oil in my dough, I'm going to use basically the oil from the sun-dried tomatoes. Extra flavor. It's already infused with the sun-dried tomato flavor, so that's like really awesome there. And just start chopping these down. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, and just start cutting down into smaller pieces. All right, that's perfect right there. Just going to add this to my flour dough. So now that my sun-dried tomatoes have been chopped, I'm just added them to my flour. So we're good to go there. Let me grab some of this. I got some oil on my hands. Gonna grab some feta now. And for this recipe here, you're gonna be doing about 150 to 200 grams of feta in this. And this is my go-to feta right here. And you're going to use a fairly generous chunk of this, and you are just going to simply crumble it in to your dough mixture or your flour mixture now, just like that. And the work is all going to be done by our mixer. Oh, this is going to be so delicious. This is going to be really, really good. Perfect. That's that there. I'm going to take my my yeast mixture, my yeast and sugar mixture, that's going in there. And all I'm going to do right now is just drop it, lock and load, and get this mixing up. Now, I took it a little bit too fast, and this is what happens. So just let the mixer do its thing. This should take about 8 to 10 minutes for this thing to completely mix. Once our dough starts pulling away from the sides of our mixing bowl, we know it's ready to go. So my bread is done mixing. the dough is anyhow. I'm just going to take this now. Actually, it won't lift up. Let me grab this. I'm going to take some flour and put it on my work surface here. So now I'm just going to grab this and take my dough here. And once your dough comes away from your mixing bowl, it'll be ready to go and you know it's done. So let me just grab this, take some of this here, and roll it out onto my work surface. Here's the thing. There is no such thing as no knead bread. Not really, anyway. In order to get the glutens going from the bread and to get that light fluffiness, you need to have some sort of kneading. You need to knead. It's that simple. And it may not be a lot, but you still need to do it. So this, I'm just going to take and just start moving it around like this. And already I can tell it's working because the dough itself is getting warmer. And this is a no fuss, no muss recipe. Very easy to do. Doesn't take much at all, but you still need to stretch the dough out and knead it, period, no matter what. And people pay a fortune for this, by the way. Loaves like this are, north of $8 to $10 a loaf. And you can make it better and like 1/8 of the cost in your own place. All right, so that's my dough there. All nice, beautiful. Look at that. I want to take a selfie with this. It's so good. Perfect. And my friends, I am certainly no baker. So if I can do this, you can do this too. I'm going to take some of my olive oil and real quick, maybe a couple tablespoons around the edges here so it doesn't stick to my bowl. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this the way it is, just drop it in there. Nothing to this. I'm going to take a little bit of cling wrap. Look at this, it's like a disaster in there. Take a little bit of cling wrap. Do this. Just put it over here. Just like that. Seal it up. Again, a little bit more on the other side. Just like that. Perfect. Then I'm going to take a tea towel, just put it over this, just like that. And I'm going to keep this in a warm place, out of the way, for 1.5 to 2 hours. And by then, it should be double. All right, so a couple hours have gone by, and check this out. My dough has pretty much doubled in size, and bowl is fairly warm. This is looking really, really good. Now, to this, I'm just gonna cover this a little bit here. Just give it a light little sprinkling over top. And I'm just gonna punch it down. And by punching it down, we're releasing the air out of it. And look at all this goodness in here. That is fantastic. Just throw this down here. A little more flour here on my board. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my dough here, just like that. A little more flour on top. And I'm going to knead it a little bit more. This is the second kneading, and I always do that. With this now, what's going to wind up happening is the dough now, don't need much work here, is going to just do its final proofing. Now, remember at the beginning I said I was going to do this or show you how to do this 2 ways? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, I'm going to take my dough here and literally I'm going to cut it in half. Just like that. Nothing to this at all. So, 2 halves of my dough. The first half, I'm gonna make a very traditional loaf here. Just a little bit of olive oil in my pan, just enough to not have my loaf stick. So just grease the sides a little bit. And I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna spread this out just like that. And I'm literally gonna make a loaf. Now, I'm gonna take a very sharp knife and do on a little bit of a side cut like this. Just 3 things. Just like that. That's the first thing. So now, that is one way. The second way here is making little rolls of these of this bread here. So I'm just going to take a little bit here, just real quick, nothing complicated, and just do this in each one, just so again it doesn't stick to the sides, and it comes out easier in the end. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to take now my dough and I'm going to cut it into little 9s. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1. And what I'm going to do is little balls here. Just drop them in here, just like that. And now these now are going to proof again for another half hour, just like that. Oh, get the little sun-dried tomato in there. Perfect. There you go. Boom. 1 hour, and then we'll be ready to fire these off. Okay, so our final proofing is done, and our bread has come up. So now the last part of this before I actually put it in the oven is I'm gonna soak the top here, brush with a little bit of water for the loaf, and I'm just gonna put some sesame seeds over this. Nothing very complicated at all. Like this, just real easy. Just put this over like this. I'm gonna take my sesame seeds and I'm just gonna sprinkle them on top, just like that. Just a Greek thing when it comes to bread. Like, I mean, we always put sesame seeds over our breads no matter what. So now, trick number 2. My oven is actually cold. I haven't preheated it at all. I'm gonna take my rolls, I'm gonna put them in, as well as my loaf. So now that our bread's in the oven's coming up to temperature, we're gonna let it go. The first 3 or 4 minutes that it takes to actually come up to temperature is gonna be our proofing time, give us that little bit of last minute pep that we need, and then we'll be off to the races. This will take about 45 minutes to an hour to bake completely. The bread itself will tell you when it's ready by the color. As soon as you see like a nice golden brown color on the top, you know it's done. All right, so no time like the present. Here we go, right at, wow. Check this out. These are absolutely done to perfection. My little breads, my little rolls, look at this. Cute little loaf there. The aromas in here are absolutely phenomenal. They are just out of this world. So these took about 45 minutes, pretty much. At 375, they are like hotter than sin, but they do come out really easy. I'll take this one out here. Don't these look beautiful, just like that? All right. Nice, crispy, crunchy crust. Wow. Ooh. And they don't have to be perfect, they're homemade. Let me see here if I can just cut one open because with my hands, it is going to be somewhat hard. So let me just move this over here, get you guys to see this open one. Oh. Now, look at inside. Look at the color of this. You have the red from the sun-dried tomatoes. You have the chunks of feta in there. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh. Oh my gosh. Holy shnikes. If you guys are bread lovers like I am, and you're always looking to kind of up your game, this is definitely the recipe. So that's it for this episode on my artisanal sun-dried tomato and feta bread 2 ways. I made it in a loaf, and I also made it in dinner rolls. I thank you so much for watching for this recipe and many others. Check me out online as well at kensgreektable.com. Please hit that like button if you like this video and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and I will definitely see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.